Hey, it's Stephanie and Michelle, and here we are once again. This is show number 3. It's the Steps of Service, and we're going to start a little differently today. Normally, we do our bathroom banter, but today we have such a special guest that we're going to start with our guest first because we're both very, very excited. And I'm going to let Michelle introduce her because not only is this woman incredible in every which way that she turns, from being an incredible artist, singer, designer, and everything else. You have to see her jewelry. It's just incredible. I couldn't take my eyes off of it, but we'll talk about that as we go on. So I'm going to let Michelle introduce her, and then we'll take it from there.
All right. Well, thank you, Stephanie. And as Stephanie said, I am so excited by our guest today, and I'm honored to introduce, not only is she an amazing artist, an amazing musician, designer, and now choreographer, but I'm so proud to also call her my friend. We have Sylver Logan Sharp on the phone. So Sylver, welcome.
Hi, thank you. What's up, everybody? How's it going?
It's
We are
amazing.
excited.
Stephanie might say something different, but I'm amazing. Stephanie's in New York, so she's going to probably answer differently than I am.
Right, I understand. That's okay. We're all here. It's all good.
All right. Well, we made it.
That is true, considering, how the world is twisting and turning and not doing all that great. We're very fortunate that we're able to do this show and to provide at least a little light entertainment for people.
Absolutely.
So Sylva, I guess I'm going to start because I always have lots of questions, especially when it's somebody who I look at and I say, wow, you have that wow factor, the real wow factor.
Thank you.
You really, really do. And I want to start with, I always wonder about artists. It's just a question that always pops into my head. What is it like, life on the road, the real life on the road? You get to visit all these crazy countries and cities. You got screaming people, male, female, kids, adults. There's no one description, but you're always on the road traveling. What's that life like?
Well, what a great question. Life on the road. Life on the road is not as glamorous as it appears for most artists, if I'm being honest. I hate to burst anybody's bubble, but if you want me to be candid and real,
no, I do.
Traveling is difficult, especially, I was mainly, a lot of my great touring years were before 9/11. So it was a different time to travel then than all that people know now. So we're now after 9/11 and we're now after COVID. So our world with traveling has truly changed. So being on a tour bus, being with bandmates, going from city to city, being in front of an audience is amazing. That part is amazing. You can't pay for it. However, the physical of traveling can be very taxing.
And you mean like the toll on your body, right?
The toll on your body, right. Sleeping, when you are asleep and in motion all the time, that's not always good because you don't sleep well. And what people don't realize is how important and crucial sleep is to your existence. And for a performer, it is crucial because our whole entire bodies have to perform. We don't sit behind a desk. We're not on the phone. We have to be physically and mentally in it, or it doesn't happen. So it can be very taxing to the body. It can be grueling at times when things are delayed, traffic, all of those things happen when you're on the road. And sometimes you get there just in time and you don't get a shower and you can't get in your hotel room. You don't necessarily get the best sleep. Sometimes you sleep great with a little shake and a little movement because the bus is moving. And sometimes you don't if it's flying everywhere. In my early days, we were flying everywhere. So waiting in airports, having to be there 3 hours early, all that kind of stuff, it's more than a notion. It's more than a notion. Sometimes it takes me longer to get there than it does for me to do what I went to do.
I can't even imagine because sometimes you're in a different city every day.
Yes.
I have a very good friend and she's like a fourth child to me. And one of the dancers for a very large group and a very large artist. And there's sometimes she's on the road Tuesday night dancing,
Yes.
performing, then flying, and then another part of the country, and then on a bus, and then preparing mentally to be able to get on stage. So like you said, it's so mentally and physically exhausting.
Yeah,
Then you
it
got to
really
turn around
is.
and jump on a bus or a plane and do it again.
Yeah. And there's no, you don't get to punch out. You don't get to, visit people. Sometimes you get there and on your day off, which is also known as the travel day, you can get to a place and get to see the city or the country or the province or wherever you may be. I've had the fortunate, through, wonderful addition to my early touring years of being all over Europe and Japan and Germany and places like that, and being able to take in the sights and, take in the culture. And there are other times where you are just passing through. So it is very challenging, and it's not for the faint of heart, because traveling is one aspect, performing is another. There are lots of times, like, for example, for me, I would not eat certain things on the road. I would not experiment with all the different foods, because if anything made me sick, that means I couldn't sing.
Sure.
So things like that, I would take in consideration that, okay, don't you try nothing that you aren't familiar with and mess around and be your head in the toilet all night, and which is not pretty, and they got to get up and sing a whole show. That is not fun.
It's interesting you
Yeah.
talking that way. I think to myself, I know when I'm on vacation, the hardest part for me is to stay on any type of diet. It's so hard.
Oh yeah. Oh no. The diet goes out the window.
Yeah,
The
I don't
diet
know
goes
how
out the window.
artists
You eat
do
what
it.
you can when you can. Well, now it's a different. Again, it was a different time back. In my main touring days, you ate what was provided. Period.
Right.
Nowadays you have a few more options. Like, for instance, for all the artists who are listening and going on tour, for example, number one, when you go to a hotel and check in, whether you have to pay for your incidentals or not, do not use anything that is in the minibar. Find the local store that's next to the hotel. Go get your water, go get your juice, go get your breakfast, get something you can nibble on, get a snack, because inevitably you're on a different time zone. Your body has not adjusted to whatever the temperature or the vibe. Sometimes you're way far out somewhere and you can't get anywhere. Sometimes the venues are way out.
Yes,
In the
over
woods. So
altitude as well.
yeah,
Even
yeah, oh
altitude
yeah,
singing.
exactly. So go to wherever that is, or when you come through the airport, or when you do a stop at whatever the local spot is to take a rest break, gas break, bathroom break, then get your snacks, get your water, get some essentials that like, for example, before every show, I eat a salad and French fries. That's my go-to. In every country, I eat a salad and French fries. Now, after the gig, I eat whatever I want. But before the gig, I eat a salad and French fries, because the salad for the energy and the roughage, and the French fries for the carbs.
Right. That's good.
And it's foolproof. I know how my body's going to respond, whether it's just lettuce or lettuce, tomato, cucumber, avocado, da 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 da, and so on. You know what I mean? So that's just one of my tricks. That's my foolproof way to make sure that my stomach and my is not upset, or I don't feel hungry, so I don't eat. Next thing you know, you're about to pass out on stage. So
Yeah.
you have to have something.
So Sylver, I have a question for you, and
Yes.
for all the listeners, because not maybe everybody listening might not know exactly who you are or who you sang with. I mean, to me, I've looked up and was such a huge fan of Chic for so many years and idolized everything you did. So
Oh, thank
maybe you
you.
can give the listeners just an insight to all the artists you've worked with, and all the bands you've played with, and then
Oh,
a
wow.
little bit of what you're doing now solo, which is so amazing.
Awesome. 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 What an outstanding question. Wow. I have been in the game for a very long time. So from 1991-ish to about 2010, the legendary band Chic as in Good Times, Freak Out, We Are Family, all those songs. They reformed Nile Rodgers and the now late Bernard Edwards, who are the masterminds of Chic, reformed and got new girls, if you will. There were original singers from the 70s. And then I became the lead singer in the 90s and remained until 2010. And being in Chic was absolutely amazing because I got to sing some of the biggest hits in music history. I got to travel all over the world, big stages, small stages. I got to re-record their hits like I Want Your Love and Everybody Dance, 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 The Freak, Good Times. There's now the original version and the version I did. I was there on tour in Japan in 1996 when Bernard Edwards, the bassist, who not only is famous for Chic records, but songs like Might As Well Face It, You're Addicted to Love,
Oh, I
and all the
love
stuff
that
by
song. Love
Rod
that
Stewart
song.
and
I
Bernard.
work
Yeah,
out to
Bernard
that
Edwards
song
was the
still.
bassist. Yeah, Bernard Edwards was the bassist for Robert Palmer back then at Power Station Record and Rod Stewart's records and all that kind of stuff. In addition to doing Chic, and then they did Duran Duran together and Madonna and way too many people to count. And so yeah, so I came in the thick of it all, and at the time where having a record deal, and there was no such thing as Facebook yet. So social media had not happened in my heyday, which for them is 30 years later, for me is in the 90s, considering that when they had their first hit in 1977, I was 10. I was 10 years old. You know what I'm saying? And I came into the band in my 20s, which was in the 90s, which now seems like 100 years ago. But, to everybody who's the way music is happening now, even he is known more for Get Lucky than he is for Le Freak, But in any case, I came up through Gene Carn, the Don't Let It Go to Your Head, no, that Gene Carn from the Philadelphia sound, Deanna Williams from Gamble and Huff, hand delivered me to Nile Rodgers and Bernard Edwards back in the 90s. And that's how I came to be in Chic. I was singing background for Gene Carn. And prior to that, I was singing in bands all over DC. I was making, the official sound of music here is called go-go. I don't know if you've ever heard of Chuck Brown and all of that, but we have a sound of music called go-go music here. And the very first recording I ever did, shout out to my friend Too Tall Steve, who was a trumpeter and also played in Chuck Brown's band. He was a producer at the time, and the very first album I ever recorded was a go-go record. So my early You Don't Know Me Yet years were go-go records. And so with some of the gods of go-go here. So that's how I started my recording career. Prior to that, I went to Duke Ellington School of the Arts, which is a performing arts school. I was there for dance and then later vocal. I'm a product of the 80s. And I went to Ellington for dance and for singing and came out and immediately started to work. And kind of sidebar, I also went to an airline academy and worked for the airlines. I've done everything from park planes to, handle customer service. I de-iced a plane. I used to work on the ramp. And then at the time they were looking for minorities, even back then, for air traffic controlling. And I went into the tower one time and said, "Oh God, no. And
Wow,
this
that's
is not for me." And then and this was when the screens looked like, a gray screen with a green dot on it. They don't look like the GPS we know today. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, I was like, yeah, no, let me get out of here. And that landed me, but I did work for the airlines for a while. I was almost going to be a flight attendant for the commuter airlines, but I could not sing and be in the bands I was in and do that at the same time. So needless to say, singing won out. And prior to all of that, as a young person, my mother is also a dancer, singer, and all of that. And in her early days, that was who I followed and who I watched. And so my dancing and choreographing and being able to direct, came almost naturally. So even as a young person, I was putting together things. I would get all my friends from the neighborhood and do a play, and not just, oh, mom, look, we're singing a song. We would have a commercial. We would have curtain call. I would have intermission. We would serve Twinkies and soda pop during intermission. You could tell me I wasn't producing a show. So I'm still using every single one of those skills. And then I also had a leg of, I worked at Gannett. I was in public. I was, a front office person in different day jobs I had while I was struggling I won't say struggling. I was gigging, I was working. I was singing every weekend. But, I had not struck it yet. And so that gave me, my business skills, as well as coming from a family who does both, who has talent. And, my grandfather was college president and all that kind of stuff. So my surrounding was that of support. So saying all that to say that I use everything I have right now. It's such a privilege to be an artist, to be a woman of color in America in 2023 and run my business. Now, it ain't for punks, okay? It is not for the faint of heart, but I wouldn't trade it for anything because all of those things have led me to this point. All of those things. I'm now into films. I just produced a show called Dancing with the Senior Stars. I have a jewelry line that's an online store and a boutique in my house. I've got 2 full albums and several singles and videos, of which I either co-produced or produced.
Yeah, we have to talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
There's one particular that's my favorite, which we'll talk about
okay.
when we get further into the podcast.
Before we get into that, I just want to know, what changes have you seen since the digital era? And when I say digital, I mean social media, the way they change voices today. I don't know too much about this, but I always hear about how people have it a lot easier because their voices can really be changed.
Absolutely. The internet kind of flatlined the music industry, and then technology became a blessing and a curse because while it afforded us a lot of ways to do things easier, yes, it did make some things easier, but it also allowed people to think that it became all you got to do is kind of mentality, or anybody can do it. So therefore, you can sing into a mic, you can put filters or, sound effects and auto-tune and all of those kinds of things.
That's what it's called.
Pitch bend and all of that. Yeah. So, and even the term auto-tune is just overused because there's more than one way to manipulate vocals. However, auto-tune was kind of made a regular term when, say, between T-Pain and Cher, used it on a record, and everybody wanted to know how did that digital voice, when on Cher's If You Believe in Love, what I mean? It was prominent on that. And then T-Pain and some of the rappers who cannot sing used it because that means whatever you say will be in the pitch you want it to be in and you can manipulate it. However, where the rubber meets the road is when it is time to get on stage.
I was just going to say, you know what? The ones that have the true voices and the true skill, the true talent is when they're live, not when you hear it on the radio or when you hear it on a record, but when they really get on stage and, the award shows or things that are taped live is when you really see the talent.
Yeah. Live performance period is just that. It's the key to all of it. And the thing about it is there are a lot of folks, anybody can be made to look like anything. We watch actors every single day play roles that we know they are not doctors. We know they're not police officers. They're not judges. They're not. We watch Law and Order like it is the holy grail, right? And they are acting.
Well, Steph, I always ask you that question all the time, don't I? I'm like, do you watch law shows? Because half of the stuff's not even real. I asked her that because I love Suits. And I said, Stephanie, do you even watch that? Because it can't be real.
Never. I never watch any law shows. But I don't watch judge shows. I don't watch trials. I don't watch any of that.
But the thing about it is, it's the standard by which people think things are done. Right. You know what I mean? And whether they are or not, That's what it looks like.
Right. It's interesting you say that, because a lot of, the few times I have been forced by people to watch these silly shows, they're just so they're so incomplete and untrue that it's painful. It's almost
because they got to solve it in an hour.
right.
Come on now.
That's
It's
why
TV.
it's torturous for someone like me to watch it. Torturous. But that's just an aside here. But I want to hear more about
Right.
your feelings on people who nowadays are performing. You have a lot of older performers, like a Paul Anka and people of that era, who are having trouble.
Who sound amazing.
But a bunch of them, they still sound amazing, but you could hear that some of it doesn't seem like it's live. And I don't know if that's true or not, but I've been to a bunch of older folks doing these concerts, and it appears that a lot of it now is not live. It looks like it's live, but doesn't sound live.
No, there are a lot of shows that are not live.
Right.
That is true. However, I'll say this. First of all, when you are performing nightly, night after night,
Right.
2 or 3 times in a night, travel, sing. You know how you sound when you wake up in the morning versus after you've had coffee and something to eat?
Oh, sure.
You know how you sound when you're about to go to bed. You know how you sound when you're catching a cold. You know how you sound when your throat's dry. All of that. Those things happen to artists and singers a little more often than the average bear because of how we use our instruments. Right? It's physical. I never ever get to put my voice away.
Right.
Never.
That's right.
The only time my voice is resting is when I am asleep. There's no just be quiet. That's not how it works. My body is not resting until I am asleep. But you were asking me about the technology and the change and all of that and what it is. So what I'm getting at about older people, there's a lot to unpack in the question that you asked. Let me address the older people. First of all, they're older people.
Right.
Right? And whatever they did 20, 30, 40 years ago is not going to sound the same. First of all, let me just go way back. And this is a perspective that I know your listeners probably would not come from. Every time you listen to a record, a recording, when your song comes on the radio or it's in your playlist or however you consume music, that performance on that song that you love to death and know every word of is a one-time performance. That day that they were recording, they did about 10 or 12 takes of a lead vocal and countless takes of background vocals, right? And then something called comping happens. And what that means is you take all of the vocals that were recorded, much like when you're doing a film and you got all these camera angles, and you have to put them all together. So in recording, you do something called comping a vocal. You take the best bits of all of the takes. So let's say in the first verse, you nailed the first 2 lines, but by the 3rd line, it got a little pitchy. But when you sang it the 5th time, it was spot on. So we're going to take the 2 lines from the first track and the 3rd line from the 5th track, and then the 7th line from the word the to the word if right before you go into love. And it has to feel as though it was one take. It cannot feel or sound like it has been edited together, right? So you got to cut all the vocals. They get comped. They get into one vocal. Now, when I comp a vocal, then I go back. I listen to that. I live with that. I get that rhythm in my head, that vibe in my head. And then I go back and sing it down again as a performance. So almost all of my lead vocals are performances. Not all of them, not everything, because on one day, I just couldn't get that note right. But a week ago, I nailed it. So we're going to pull it from a week ago. You know what I mean? Because today, my voice doesn't feel like
Steph,
it.
you said something funny. You called them old folks. And the first thing that came to my mind, Sylver started talking about records and the word vinyl and record.
Because we still call it record.
There's kids out there that don't even know what a record or a vinyl is because they're so used to, their iPads and their Spotifys and all their everything
and
technology, with
downloads and
technology.
MP3s and all of
And,
that. Yeah.
the old folks, and I know I don't consider myself that old, but I remember when the record
Oh
was
no.
amazing. I had hundreds of records and hundreds of vinyl, and it was amazing
Mm-hmm.
to listen to a record. And now it's, you don't even have records. You push a button on your phone and it plays music.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And they've definitely taken a lot from the industry by doing that. But on the other hand, so that's what it takes to make a performance. And I was breaking that down because what you hear over and over again on the record is a one-time performance. So if
Right.
I'm still singing that song 20 years, 30 years, 40 years later, I am not going to sound like I did that day in that moment.
Right.
That's just not going to happen. And I may sing it a little slower, a little faster. I might change the key. I might not do the same arrangement. I might put a different remix, do a mashup. There's all these different ways to execute a song. But then fans want to hear the song the way the song goes 90% of the time. They don't want you to do something creative with it. Just sing it the way I know it to
That's
go.
very
You know
true.
what I
'Cause you
mean?
have the whole audience singing also.
They're
Right.
singing along.
Right.
Exactly. So with that said, it becomes people forget that. And then you have some people who still sound like they did, like Bonnie Raitt. Oh my God. Reba McEntire. Are you kidding me? They sound like they did 20 years ago.
Right. That's something.
20 years ago. Melissa Etheridge. They sound like they did 20 years ago. Shaka Khan, depending on the day.
Diana Ross.
Stephanie Mills. Diana Ross. Patti
Ross.
LaBelle. Still hollering at the top
Okay,
of her
you know
lungs.
your name and
know,
all
they
the
sound-
divas.
Right. Diana
Exactly.
Ross was
But
amazing.
they're
I
all
just saw her.
over 60. They're all over 60 and still gigging. They're all over 60 and still performing live.
Diana Ross was
They
turning
wouldn't
80.
think
She
of
told us.
having
80.
anything on their voices. Yeah. And will turn a stage out.
Oh my God. Superior.
And she was never a powerhouse singer, but she's Diana Ross.
Right. I didn't want to leave.
You know what I mean?
I
Cher.
wanted more.
Cher's one. I grew up watching Cher. Like, yeah. I mean, I'm saying all this to say that to keep your instrument in a way that you can do any kind of a performance that is wonderful. Because now look at, say, Frankie Beverly and Maze, who's one of the most famous bands in R&B history, he's starting to lose his voice. He's starting to deal with dementia. I happen to know a little more than that, but I can't say because, and when I say more than that, I don't know firsthand out of his mouth, but I just know some people who, have been like, yeah, he has moments. Well, yeah, that's to be expected. The fact that he can sing at all, for some people. Some people leave here singing till the day they die. Some people, Bernard Edwards, case in point. Bernard died after the show. Tony Bennett, he was struggling, but he played that show. Tony Bennett, right, another one. So, but here's the thing. The thing is that it's no different from any other profession. Football, doctors, military, you know what I mean? It's just that it gets noticed because there's a, we don't revere doctors and people like that who also have crazy hours and do crazy travel and, and do all those kind of things. The celebrity of being an artist kind of puts a different spin on all of it. So it's revered in a different kind of way. But we have issues just like everybody else that interfere with life, just like everybody
Sylver,
else.
You said something very interesting when we first started talking. I had an opportunity to go to Coachella a couple of years ago, Ariel and Rose and Mark, and we went on the tour bus and we were able to see the experience from the artist side. And, for me, this was the first time I had a chance to see this, Rose and Mark and you and everybody in the band so used to this. And, we go so excited as, like, to Stephanie's point, we're out there singing and dancing, and to us, it's fun and it's exciting. But to the band, this is work and this is serious. And they're on the bus and you're getting in their mindset and their headset to go on stage and perform. And, and it's such a different energy from the band side versus, the viewer side. So, what
Yeah, it's
not
not
a
a party.
party,
We're not just
and
hanging out. We're at work.
people don't
Yeah.
believe, they don't see that. They're expecting the party and, the partying and the drinking and the excitement and energy. And that's not
Yes.
what it's about at all. I mean, to the artist, this is their job. It's
Mhm.
serious. And they have to
Correct.
prepare and be
Correct.
mentally ready to give that viewer the experience that they want. And that leads me into like, you kept saying, it's singing, preparing, diet, getting yourself ready. What did you do
Hmm.
to get your voice ready? I mean, before you get on stage, what did you do to mentally prepare and to work your voice and get ready to, to put that 100% energy out there, especially with Chic, such a high energy band?
Yeah. I had a ritual, especially on the road. I had to have a tub in my bathroom in my hotel rooms because I took hot lavender therapeutic baths before and after every show. It was a way to raise the temperature. It was a way to shake off all the travel and the outside noise from wherever it was I had just come from. You know how you walk in
Okay.
hotel rooms and the air's
Amazing.
blasting and it's cold and, and all of that. And that's lethal to singers. So I have to, adjust the air immediately, get it warm in there, incubation style, turn the heat up, get in the tub. I carry heating pads and all that kind of stuff. Because for me, I have to stay warm. Trumpet players, saxophone players, they have to stay warm. Drummers have to stay warm. It is physical. It's physical. I stretch, I squat, I vocalize while I'm getting in hair and makeup. I have my vocal lessons from my vocal instructor, whose birthday it is today, I think. And shout out to Lloyd Mallory. And I rehearse with them in my hotel room or wherever I am when I'm preparing. I don't eat certain things that are extremely creamy. Like I love cheese. I love bread. I think I'm an Italian in another life because I could eat pasta every day. The sauces, the creams, I'm just like, But but I'll not eat that if I'm on a long run. I won't eat ice cream when I'm on a long run. Maybe on the day off, maybe, because a little bit won't hurt me. But doing it constantly, having cheese on everything, is not a good look when you have to sing and you're flying around and all that because you can't control the elements. The elements are unpredictable. So anyway.
Yeah, it's funny you said that because I mean, there's many artists, and we've been to a few concerts where they literally will shut off the air conditioning completely until the artist is ready to go on the stage because, and
Oh,
who
I
I'm
raise
talking
hell about
about.
air all the time.
But she'll shut off
Mm-hmm.
all the air in the arenas, the stages, to
Yep.
make sure that everything in is just warm because obviously, it affects her voice, it affects her performance. And then once the air goes on and
Yeah.
she goes on stage, then they cool it off. So it's funny that you said that because, again, you're paying all this money for a ticket. You're sitting in the audience and you're dying and sweating. I know Janara, my husband, is like, oh my God, it's so warm in
I'm
here.
here.
But then the artist goes on and, the air goes on and it cools off. But you don't realize it
Yeah.
affects their voice, their performance.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. And not only that, but the other perspective is, for example, when we get to the venues for sound check hours before, and you know how we're all wrapped up in scarves and all that kind of stuff. And that's because the venue's not warm. We have to be there for a couple of hours in the cold trying to get it together. And then, and endure it. Whereas the audience just comes for like 2 hours. You know what I mean? So it's always favored for the audience and not usually for the artist. So it's just one of the many things. I fuss about AC all the time. I've raised more hell about air conditioning than anything else. But
That's funny.
yeah, that's just one of the things. And
I want to.
you
Yeah.
asked
What
me,
about, Sylver,
what
what
else
about
did you ask me?
future of music? We talked about what it used to be like, and now with all the new AI technology and all the synthetics and voiceovers and all the different things we're talking about, where do you see the future of music going? Do you think it's going to be all,
Woo!
synthetic, or, I mean, are we going to go back to the roots of where we came from and, true vocals and true performance? I mean, what's your kind of view of the future, your vision?
I think a little bit of both. I think a little bit of both because never mind the worldly division that seems to be happening, but because generationally things are so different. The younger generation, aside, I love that the younger generation has a lot to work with and they have things that make situations easier. Like you don't have to have a record deal to put
Mhm.
out a record. You don't have to have, managers and things to get bookings. There are some things that are still hard and still difficult and still true, but you may not be the most famous person on the planet, but it doesn't mean you can't work as an artist. Just consistent work is being successful. You don't have to have a Grammy to validate your success. You just have to be a good artist that will and that you have when you put your product out, people dig it. There's a lot of artists out here that you will never know about
Yeah.
because you won't get the
Right.
opportunity. However, on the other hand, the future of it all is that more people have access to make music, and music is subjective. Everybody doesn't like the same thing. So there's enough room to go around to make and create all kinds of music using all kinds of devices and
Right.
technology. Now, when we start getting into which can be good. The reason why I say both is because there's an audience that wants to hear guitar plucking, that wants to hear the buzz from an amp, that wants to see a drummer play, and that wants to hear a vocalist and watch them sweat and drink water and do all the stuff that we do
Right.
on stage. And then there's another audience that will watch everything on YouTube, like watching people eat and watching people play with cats and, stuff like that. And then there's another audience of people that are just into whatever is
Yeah.
futuristic. I believe there is room for all of it. And there's enough people who need the real stuff anyway, that I don't think that will ever quite dissipate, because at the end of the day, if we have a world shutdown and can't nobody plug in nothing, guess who can
Right.
still sing?
Exactly.
There you go. But as usual, we're running tight on time now. And I know we want to hear a little bit about your jewelry and how you transformed
Absolutely.
from being the incredible singer you are to the incredible jeweler you've become. So if you could just tell us a little bit about that. And then, as usual, Michelle and I could go on and on and on for hours and hours and hours. But
Yeah, and
I
Sylver,
know. This has
we
been
have to
great
get to
too.
your dancing with the seniors too that you're doing with your choreography, you sing, and your mom
Yeah,
Paula, who's
yeah.
fabulous as well. So we gotta get a little overview
Yes.
of what you're working on.
So where do I start? You said okay, let's talk about silverware really quickly. So silverware is what silver wears, right?
yeah,
And this started out, so after I tell you this, you're going to want to interview my mother, Miss Paula. So my mother is a survivor of
mm,
fibromyalgia, myofascial trigger
mm,
point disorder,
horrible.
panic disorder, and several other things,
Mm,
right? And now she's one of the pioneers in
mm,
fibromyalgia, and she's written books about it, all that kind of stuff. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, to cut to the chase, um, my aunt Camille, her sister, was making jewelry for fun. My mother went to visit for some therapeutic sun and all of that in South Carolina. She came back and said, "Hey, me and Camille, we're making jewelry. Check it out." She taught me, and I ran with it, basically. Being in the entertainment business, it gave me a platform in which to wear it. So I started wearing it on my gigs and things like that. People wanted to buy it off of my neck. The various and sundry celebrities got a wind of it, blah, blah, blah. So everybody from the late Nancy Wilson to Shaka Khan, even Elton John, all have bought jewelry from me. I have pictures of them in it and all kind of stuff like
mm,
that. And that was part of my mother's therapy. It was healing. It was making one of a kind stuff. And when she got really, really sick, I asked God, I said, I know you have put me here to sing and be an artist and do that through music, but I know that I have other skills. And if you could just point me in the direction of what I need to do, that I have something that complements what I do as an artist, but stands alone. And within a year or so, it manifested in jewelry. And for the first 7 years, it was a hobby. I was just making it for shows and for gifts and things like that. And then people say, "Where'd you get that? It's fabulous. Where did you get that?" "Oh, I make it." "Well,
mhm.
you made that?" well, how much? And I started to sell stuff off my neck and go, wait a minute, we might be on to something. And so, and now here we are 25 plus, almost 27 some odd years later. And I have an online store. I still have a boutique in my house. We still pick every stone, create every design, make every piece. And it's a family business that we have maintained all these years. That's kind of our baby. My mother makes all the beaded stuff. I set all the stones and semi-precious stones and whatnot. And together we create silverware.
That's great.
It is available at SYLVERWEAR.
And Sylver, you have to mention Feel Good Fridays.
Oh, yes. Oh, Feel Better Friday. Feel Better Friday was my original podcast we did for 5 years, where I featured guest recording artists who popped up at my loft. And we did a concert in my house. Everybody from Will Downing to Howard Hewitt, just all kinds of people, Rasan Patterson, all kinds of artists came and did it. We did it for 3 years. And after COVID, we did it on a platform called Virtue Live, which was the platform that allowed musicians to play together in real time from multiple locations using interface and green screen technology, meaning we were all at home playing together in real time with no latency. I know people say it can't be done. We did it for 2 years, and you can see that on SylverLoganSharp.com or Feel Better Friday. And then there's Dancing with the Senior Stars.
So that to me is very exciting because I love Dancing with the Stars on TV. So when you mentioned that you were doing that and producing and doing all the choreography yourself, I was so intrigued, and I love that you're doing it with seniors. So I know you just launched your first concert show with the seniors. So are you going to be doing that again?
So basically,
is it going to keep going?
Maybe.
I want to hear all about this, and I don't want to rush this because this sounds like such an interesting topic. So maybe we should do this again because we are going over the time.
Yeah, and we definitely need to have Sylver back because we haven't even touched on all the amazing things she does.
And I'm sorry, I hate if I'm being long-winded.
No.
There's just so much to say.
There is so much. So I think we need to have this cut into a 2-part show because I really don't want to rush this part of it, and I feel like we're not getting the full flavor of Sylver. So I think the best thing.
Well, whatever you all decide, I'm game.
I think we would love to have you come back on and do another full show because you have so much to offer. And you have so much for people to listen to, and it really is something that I don't want to cut you short. So, with that being said, we have come really to the end of the show, and I just want to tell you that on behalf of Michele and myself, we appreciate your time, we really do, and your knowledge. It was really something.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
For people to learn.
Sylver,
it really is.
Stephanie, you're going to have to come to Christmas because Sylver and her family join us every Christmas. She's an adopted family member. She's part of the fam, and every year we do our Christmas carols and we sing together. And I mean, it's pretty amazing. So you're going to have to come and meet in person and listen to Sylver's beautiful voice. Wait. Steph, we can't forget. We have to do our bathroom banter.
Most important part of the day. And guess what? Today was like a crazy day for me. So I guess I'm going to have to talk the bathroom that I was most currently in. And it was pretty amazing. I don't know. When I was a kid, we used to call these hot shops. But now I think they call them rest stops. So
what did you call them? A hot shop? What's a hot shop?
A hot shop. That's what they used to be called when I was a kid. I don't know. My parents used to take us on trips upstate. My dad used to say, let's stop at a hot shop. And that's what these were called. So, but now they're called rest stops. So just so you know, I'm at the rest stop right before exit 11 on the New Jersey Turnpike. And I have to tell you something about rest stops in general that, we want to talk bathrooms here. Rest stops have the cleanest bathrooms on the New Jersey Turnpike. I'm telling you, like you could eat off the floor in these rest stops. I don't understand it.
I don't know if I would do that.
Well, I'm just telling you, these people got to have full-time bathroom employees, restroom employees. Seriously, because they got to be cleaning these restrooms because there's such a large influx of people into these restrooms that these restrooms got to be cleaned on the regular. I think Burger King and McDonald's need to take notice because there is never any soap dripping. There is never any paper towels on the floor. And one other thing I'd like to make a comment about it is that in the old days, we used to have bathrooms that you had to flush. Okay, so now they have the flushers. That's cool. Now we have where we can get the paper towel. You run your hand under it. We have those. You don't have to touch anything. That's cool also. But I love these sinks and these soap dispensers. You don't got to touch them anymore either. You just
It's
got to
nice when
put
you
your
don't have to
hand
touch
under.
anything, isn't it?
It's crazy. So, yes, my vote this week is for the restroom right before exit 11 on the New Jersey Turnpike. There you go.
All right. Well, it's funny, Stephanie, because you've been doing a lot of stopping on rest stops and fast food. And because we always catch you on the run, whether it's after depositions or after work, every time I catch you, you're like, I'm pulling over and stopping at a rest stop.
Right, right. I am constantly because you know what? I'm trying to cover as much ground as possible. That's what it comes down to. I feel like I'm always trying to cover ground. So my car has become my office.
All
It
right.
really
Well,
has.
so my bathroom experience, and I'm going to talk about airplanes because I spent the last 2 days working on air travel. What we talked about earlier with all the stuff going on and all the craziness of trying to cancel a wedding and all these documents. I've spent the last 2 days on the phone canceling airfare. And one of the things that I really want to talk about is the most amazing bathroom I've ever been on an airplane, and that is definitely Emirates. Emirates takes the cake. The champagne, the caviar, anything you want to say about an amazing bathroom. When I tell you it's unbelievable, you have the ability to
Hmm.
go into these bathrooms on the airplane and take a shower. Emirates is amazing. I recommend it highly. I got to tell you, I hate to fly. I hate to spend any amount of time on a plane that there is, but when I flew Emirates to Dubai, I didn't want to get off the plane. It was unbelievable from the bathroom experience to the service experience. The bathrooms have showers, changing tables, areas to do your makeup. I'm telling you, what an amazing experience because you don't usually get that on a plane. So, my vote for today for the most amazing bathroom, besides Tiffany's, because I got to tell you, Tiffany's was pretty spectacular, is Emirates. So, that's my vote.
Wow. That's that's a bathroom I'd love to try out. Sounds like a fun bathroom, like a luxurious bathroom. That sounds great.
Oh,
Love
yeah,
that
just like I
idea.
told you when we were talking about Elaine Ducasse, and I said, they follow you around with chocolates. Here, they follow
Mm.
you around with champagne. It's pretty
That's
spectacular.
unbelievable. Like your bathrooms are like they're like an experience in itself. My bathrooms are like, just please give me something that's somewhat clean so I don't get some disease.
Well, you're always traveling in a car.
I know. Well, my bad bathroom of the day is on Broadway at the heck's the name of the coffee place? Oh my god! And I went in there and I said, "What's the coffee place that everybody gets coffee at?" That I hate their coffee, but I had to go in. Starbucks. So
Starbucks. Oh
yeah.
my God, that was going to be my bad bathroom today, too.
Oh my god! Like if you have to go, do not go into a Starbucks. Do not, because you know what? They're so liberal that they want to have bathrooms for the homeless in there. And in New York City, if you open your bathrooms to the homeless, I mean, I was waiting to see needles on the floor. I'm not even
Oh my God,
kidding.
that's disgusting.
It is so scary. It was so disgusting. You need you need four people to clean the bathroom every minute in the Starbucks. It's disgusting, and it's don't go there.
It's
That's my
funny you said
opinion.
that because literally that's was my bad bathroom today experience as well. I mean, and what's funny is they lock them and they make you give them they make you have a key. So why do they lock them if they're not going to clean them? They're disgusting.
Yeah,
There's stuff on the floor, everything's wet, there's never paper towels, and you would think for a $10 coffee that
right,
at
right,
least they would have clean bathrooms.
right. I'm telling you, and this is on the Upper West Side. How dare they? It
Yeah,
was
we
the
were in a
most.
pretty nice project in DC, so I agree with you. So, you're in, nice areas. They're locking these bathrooms, but then you go in and you don't even want to be in there. And I'll tell you what, I've had pretty bad experiences in Starbucks, so it's not the first time. I try not to even step in there if I don't have to.
Yeah, I mean, I never go into Starbucks because I don't usually have their coffee. I was in my travels and I had to get on the computer, and like they don't like you just sitting there without ordering a coffee. So I said, all right, I got to order one of these things, and I'm like, I don't even know what they're talking about, lattes and mates and all this other nonsense. I'm of the days of coffee. I would just like a coffee. That's it. Just a coffee. Not one of these fancy things and this grande and that. Small, medium, and large. That's it. Very simple.
Yeah.
Very, very
Well,
simple.
at least you know what, you and I were definitely in sync today because we were both anti Starbucks today.
There you go. So another bathroom comes to an end. The bathroom week comes to an end. And there you go. You get the same one for the dislike, and you got two completely different people. You got you
Yeah.
who's in the lap of luxury bathroom, and I'm just hoping not to get like murdered or diseased. That's it. You know, and I'm good with
Well, you
that.
know what? You were talking about travel, and I wasn't on a rest stop. I was on the phone all day with the airline. So I said, you know what? I'll talk about travel too.
Well, I'm constantly on the road. I'm telling you, my car has become my office, but it's okay. I get to cover a lot of ground, and I really make the best and the most of every day before me because you have to. That's kind of what it's all about.
Absolutely.
And
Well,
it,
Steph, we had another amazing episode, another
yeah,
banter between the dynamic duo.
that's right. You know it. And till the next one, be prepared for the bathrooms of the week.
Yes. And next week, it's just going to be you and I because we
That's
get to do our thing together.
that's right. I think everybody's going to really enjoy that. I really do.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, and everybody have an amazing night. And Steph, I'll talk to you soon.
Yep. Stay tuned.